Chapter 2461, Playing with Them, 2. Yes, even though they were only 3 years old, the 3 babies she had given birth to were already sensible enough to know how to take care of their grandparents. When they were at home, the 3 children would pour water for their grandpa and grandma and bring their medicine to them. If they weren't feeling well, they even knew how to call for someone to take a look at them. The more obedient the 3 children were, the more reluctant the elders were to leave them. However, Xiaowei and Miaojing were already in their 70s. The triplets were only 3 years old. Sometimes, Xiaowei and Miaojing wanted to treat the 3 children well, but they were strong in will but weak in power. Take today for example. Accompanying the children out to play was the furthest place that Miaojing could travel to now. Qiaonan couldn't stop a grandma from wanting to accompany her grandchildren. If she thought of ways to stop her, Miaojing would feel uncomfortable. In the face of such a situation, Qiaonan didn't know what to do at all. She could only work harder and let the elder be happy. "Grandma, eat a piece of dragon fruit." When Sanbao came out, she sat next to Miaojing and personally forked a piece of purple-red dragon fruit and fed it into Miaojing's mouth. "Grandma, is it sweet?" The fruit was ripe and it was full of water. It was sweet with a little sourness and tasted good. This was especially so since her granddaughter had fed her. The taste would naturally improve because of her granddaughter. After eating the fruit satisfactorily, Miaojing replied, "It is. It's so sweet. Grandma won't eat it anymore." "Sanbao, eat. If Grandma wants to eat, she'll take it herself," Miaojing said sweetly as she touched her granddaughter's little braids that were gradually longer and thicker. Sanbao was greedy as well. After fulfilling her filial piety, Sanbao forked the fruit that she liked and placed one piece after another in her mouth. Her small mouth moved like a little squirrel, and she looked exceptionally cute. The children who were tired of playing gathered around Miaojing and Sanbao. Very quickly, the 3 children finished the fruit box. Children at the triplets' age had stomachs like bottomless pits. They would get hungry after a while. After finishing the box of fruit, not only did the 3 children not feel full, but they felt hungrier instead. "Mom, let's go and eat something delicious. I'm hungry. What do you want to eat?" "I'll say this first. No KFC." Qiaonan had first informed the 3 children. It wasn't good for children to eat too much fried food. Qiaonan had long set the rules for them. They could only eat fried food once a month at most. The children had already fulfilled this month's quota. Qiaonan would not become soft-hearted and change her mind just because they acted like spoiled children. Bao stuck out his tongue. "See?" He knew that his mom wouldn't agree to it. Sanbao insisted on trying and said that she might agree. Sigh. On this matter, how was there the possibility of might? Rather than looking forward to the day when their mom would allow them to eat KFC twice a month, they were better off looking forward to the day when their dad no longer snatched their mom away from them so that she could accompany them more. The latter would definitely not happen. Based on this difficult relationship, Qiaonan would similarly not agree to the 3 children eating KFC twice a month. Sanbao sighed like an adult. She felt that adults were too rigid and there wasn't any room for discussion at all. The friends who studied kindergarten together with them were better. For example, she didn't like vegetables. As such, she discussed with her friend sitting next to her. She would give him the vegetables she disliked and let him eat them. The next time the teacher distributed a fruit that he didn't like, she would help eat it instead. How good was this? As such, she no longer needed to eat the vegetables she disliked, and her friend no longer needed to eat the fruits he disliked. Sanbao didn't understand why it was so easy to discuss things with children but not adults. It was better being a child. She didn't want to grow up. Growing up wasn't good. Sanbao only dared to have such thoughts in her mind. If she dared to say these words out, Qiaonan would definitely go to school and report to the teacher about this situation. Of course, aside from this, in order for Sanbeo to make up for the uneaten vegetables at school, she would definitely include more vegetables in the dinner menu such that Sanbeo had no choice but to eat them. In fact, she had to eat more. After getting away with the first meal, would she let her get away with the second? Dabeo looked at Erbeo and Sanbeo helplessly. He couldn't understand. Their grandpa said that Erbeo and Sanbeo were born at a time similar to him and were only a bit younger than him. Why were Erbeo and Sanbeo so childish and not clever at all? Wasn't it just a meal of KFC? He didn't feel that it was very delicious. Most importantly, they couldn't eat whatever they wanted now. However, their grandpa said that after they grew up, they could do whatever they wanted. As such, what they should do now was to eat well and grow taller. They could have the final say on everything in the future. Dabeo, who held his chest, expressed that he was going to eat more later during the meal. Their grandpa and grandma were old. He wanted to grow bigger and stronger so that he could take good care of them. Sigh. He didn't know if their grandpa was well at home and if he ate his meals and medicine obediently when he was playing with Erbeo and Sanbeo during this time. Upon thinking of the disobedient grandpa at home, Dabeo felt helpless. Aside from their dad and mom, their grandpa and grandma were as disobedient as Erbeo and Sanbeo. They needed someone to take care of them. As the older brother, he could only be tougher. After the three children discussed it for a while, Dabeo decided to have steak. Why was that? Dabeo expressed that he heard that eating steak would allow one to grow muscles and become taller. He wanted to grow up quickly. Steak tasted good. Erbeo and Sanbeo had no objection. After the three children decided, the adults only had to follow behind them. They would follow them into whatever store they entered. As they passed by a store, one of the three children would always point to it and ask, "Mom, what is this store? What does it sell? What delicious food does it have?" Xiaonan didn't mind the trouble. She told the three children that this was a barbecue shop or a sushi shop. When they encountered relatively simpler words, Xiaonan would teach the three children. This is the character for meat. The meat that you love is spelled like this. Dabeo widened his eyes. Mom, there are two humans in this meat character. Yes. That's because meat is delicious. There's more than one human who likes it. As such, there are two humans. Chapter 2462, Playing with them, 3. Then, do we have to write it with three humans? Sanbeo looked up and asked Xiaonan. Mom, look. Dabeo likes to eat meat. Erbeo likes to eat meat. Sanbeo also likes to eat meat. 1, 2, 3. There are three humans. Xiaonan smiled and held Sanbeo's hand. No matter how good meat is, we can't overeat. As such, it's enough for two humans. It won't change. For example, you are called Sanbeo today. You will still be called Sanbeo tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Oh. Erbeo nodded, expressing that he already recognized the meat word. Even if Dabeo and Sanbeo didn't say anything, Xiaonan knew that they were the same as Erbeo. They would have a deep impression of this meat word and wouldn't forget how to write it in the future. There was no choice. At this age, aside from playing, the three children would be particularly obsessed with eating. Meat was their favorite food. How would they forget about the word that was related to it? They would only remember it well. After knowing how obsessed with eating her three children were, Xiaonan decided to think of ways to educate them via their foodie nature. As for other things, Xiaonan expressed that they weren't important. When the three children grew up, this would become an interesting childhood memory. Mom, cow. Cow. Very quickly, the three children and two adults arrived at their destination. Erbeo pointed to the picture of a cow outside the store excitedly. His eyes shone. It was as if that picture of a cow had become a delicious plate of steak. Seeing Erbeo's greedy look, Miao Jing kept laughing. Bao, no matter how hungry you are, we have to wait. We can have it soon. Based on her grandson's greedy look, she suspected that if she moved her hands and feet slower, Bao would rush forward and gnaw at the picture of the cow. She didn't know where the three children's love for eating came from. Were Hua and Zai Sheng so greedy when they were young as well? It was a pity that her husband didn't like to go out. Also, when Hua and Zai Sheng were young, the society hadn't developed to what it was today. They could just casually click on their mobiles and get a bunch of things they couldn't eat at home delivered to their house. She was satisfied with the growth of her grandchildren but regretted the growth of her son and daughter as she had never participated in it. As she looked at the three children, Miaojing realized her memory was getting worse recently. There were a couple of times she nearly addressed Bao as Zai Sheng and San Bao as Hua. It was just that when she turned her head and found that there was another boy who looked similar to Zai Sheng and Hua did Miaojing remember that Zai Sheng wasn't her son but her eldest grandson, Da Bao. The other wasn't her daughter but her granddaughter, San Bao. She had long known that one would have a lot of illnesses when one was older. She also wasn't sure if her situation of being confused for a while but able to recover quickly from the mistakes in her memory was considered normal. Perhaps she would go to the hospital or ask a Chinese medicine practitioner the next time what the problem was. Grandma. Order the dishes. Bao diligently stuffed the menu into Miaojing's hands. Then, he looked around and asked Xiaonan, Mom, what is this vegetable? What is this? Is this ice cream? Xiaonan's patience was always the best in front of the three children. In the face of their never-ending questions, Xiaonan would always talk to them gently and never despise them for being noisy. There were some people who initially frowned when they saw Xiaonan with three small children by her side entering the shop, but they soon relaxed their eyebrows. They knew that they shouldn't be calculative toward children. However, children at this age were extremely cheeky. They would always run, jump, and knock over things. They would also open their mouths wide and cry loudly, thus causing everyone to have headaches. No matter how good one's child was, in the face of a child who was always energetic, even their biological parents would feel annoyed at times. Even parents were impatient with their child. Could they expect them to provide everyone with a quiet and comfortable eating environment in public? However, this family seemed to be a little different. The three children still had the liveliness and curiosity that belonged to their age. However, even though there were three children, the parent could manage them. The three children surrounded their mom and asked this and that but did so in a cute manner. It wasn't irritating but was, in fact, quite interesting. What the people in the restaurant felt most at ease about was that the three children's mother seemed to be a very gentle person. No matter how cheeky a child was, they couldn't help but become quiet and obedient when they stood next to her. There was no squabbling, let alone crying. Aside from a few childish voices, there was no other change to their eating environment. Yes, such a feeling was good. Sit properly and eat your fruits. If you want to eat something, I can help you take it. You can also take it yourself. However, remember not to knock your chopsticks and spoons against the plates. That doesn't sound pleasant at all. Also, don't run or jump around. If you knock into someone or fall down yourself, both parties would feel pain. I just brought you here from the playground. You can't do the things you did in the playground in a restaurant. Understand? Being active was part of a child's nature. Xiaonan couldn't suppress their nature. It was just that when they were outside, Xiaonan would often remind the three children where they were and what kind of things they should do. If the three children wanted to play to their heart's content in a playground or park, that was fine. Xiaonan wouldn't reprimand them. Of course, if the three children insisted on doing the things they did in a playground in a restaurant, Xiaonan would say that since their buttocks were itchy, she could hit them a few times to cure the itch. Xiaonan had already said her words so clearly. No matter how cheeky the three children were, would they not listen to her words? Furthermore, the three children never went against Xiaonan. Besides, they were almost starving to death when they came out of the playground. Compared to playing, what they needed more now was food. The three children nodded obediently, saying that they would not create trouble. Only then did Jiaonan carry the children down from the stools one by one. Then, she accompanied them to the fruit buffet area and helped them with the things they wanted. It wasn't the first time that the three children had a meal under such circumstances. Without Jiaonan teaching them, they also knew what they should do. Chapter 2463, No Loss, 1. After getting themselves a small plate's worth of food, the three children stopped taking any more. Their mom had said that they were still small and couldn't balance well. If they took too much food, they wouldn't be able to hold the plate well, and everything on it would fall off. Everyone knew that every grain was the fruit of hard work. They had to appreciate the food produced from the hard work of the farmers. They couldn't afford to waste even just a tiny bit. Because of that, the children had only placed a few slices of fruits on their plates before obediently returning to their seats. After finishing the fruits with clean hands, they continued to fill their plates with more. If they accidentally bumped into others, the three children would apologize, so much so that the other party had to resist the urge to stroke their likable faces. Of course, it wasn't only Miaojing and Jiaonan who had brought their children out to eat. Compared to Jiaonan's family of 2 adults and 3 children, other families seemed a lot livelier. There were children wailing, running around, and even playing catch. Thankfully, there were other families like the triplets, who did not cause much ruckus. Just one such family in a public area was enough to cause indigestion. All right. I've cut it. Can you feed yourselves? It was only because the children had been craving steak that Jiaonan had brought them there. Although she did not have a big appetite, she always felt that a piece of steak was never enough to fill her stomach. More importantly, steak came in a whole slice. The children didn't know how to cut it up. As such, Jiaonan had to help the 3 children cut theirs up so that they could use their own forks to eat them. Yes, I'll eat it myself. Bao was the first to pick up a fork and stab it into a juicy slice to bring it to his mouth, eating it delectably. Mom, let me help you. Having helped her children, Jiaonan helped her mother-in-law, Miaojing. It wasn't that Miaojing was weak like the children and couldn't cut the steak herself or that she was afraid that Miaojing would hurt herself. It was because Miaojing didn't really take a fancy to Western food, and it wasn't easy for her to cut up a piece of steak properly. It was because of this that Jiaonan realized that Miaojing had a slight obsessive-compulsive disorder. She didn't like to eat steak, but whenever she ate it, she insisted on drawing neat lines on the steak like a grid. If she couldn't cut it well, she would easily throw a tantrum. Because Jiaonan knew of Miaojing's habit, Jiaonan would do the same for her mother-in-law after doing it for her 3 children. Miaojing knew that she was being slightly unreasonable when eating steak. But she couldn't help it. So, Miaojing could only wait quietly and obediently for Jiaonan to finish helping the 3 children. It seemed like she could really compete with the children. After taking care of both the elderly and her children, Jiaonan finally had the chance to start with her own piece of steak. Brother Zai had managed to escape this time. In the future, she had better choose days when Brother Zai was around for such outings. Zai Sheng might not be able to do what Jiaonan could do, but at the very least, he could act as her runner, carry things, or drive. Those were things that Zai Sheng could definitely do well. That would be relieving Jiaonan of some burden. Do you still want to play? Otherwise, shall we head home with Grandma? Since they had had their fill, Jiaonan looked at their satisfied faces and asked the children if they wanted to head home. They had the habit of taking afternoon naps. Besides, they had been out since 9 that morning. It was almost an hour past noon now. San Bao leaned against Jiaonan and yawned, expressing her fatigue. It wasn't just San Bao. Even De Bao and Bao were sleepy too. How could they possibly not be tired after playing for an entire morning? Even if they weren't tired from playing, it was normal to get sleepy after a meal. Combining these factors together, Dabeo and Erbao rubbed their eyes wearily. Mom, let's go back. Oh, okay. Miaojing sighed in relief. Although she wanted to spend more time with the three children, she was afraid that Jiaonan wouldn't be able to care for them alone. Besides, reality had hit her. Apart from taking care of the children, she still had to take care of her mother-in-law. Not only had she not been of any help, but she had even added more trouble for Jiaonan. What shall we do with Sanbao? Sanbao buried her face in Jiaonan's embrace, and only Dabao and Erbao could take a few steps with much difficulty. It's all right. I'll carry Sanbao. Mom, can you help me hold Dabao's and Erbao's hands? I'll hold the other things. Let's go home. Jiaonan knew that the children would get sleepy, but she had not expected them to get sleepy so quickly today. They hadn't even given her any time to prepare herself. Shall I take the things? Miaojing suggested. The three children had quite a few things. It wasn't easy for two adults to carry them, let alone Jiaonan alone. What Miaojing was most worried about was that Jiaonan still had to carry Sanbao while holding onto all those things. Sanbao wasn't light anymore. Jiaonan knew that it wouldn't be easy for her to do so, but she had no other choice. If she wanted to bring the three children out without Zai Sheng, that was what she had to do. When Zai Sheng was around, it didn't matter whether Sanbao was sleepy, or whether all three children couldn't walk anymore. Jiaonan only needed to carry her things. She could simply hand the responsibility of all three rascals, weighing almost 100 pounds, over to Zai Sheng. It didn't matter whether he carried them or hauled them back. It was Zai Sheng's problem alone. But now, Zai Sheng wasn't around, and it was her mother-in-law, Miaojing, with her. Jiaonan had no choice but to be a superwoman, carrying Sanbao in one arm and all the other things in another. The only thing that Jiaonan was thankful for was that the bags were much lighter now. When they had first gotten out of the house, the bags had been full of everything the children needed, from water to food. But they had finished their fruits and snacks and had almost finished their water too. The volume was pretty much the same, but the weight had been lessened by more than half. As such, it wouldn't be too much of a struggle for Jiaonan to carry them as long as she arranged them well. Mom, here's the car key. Can you help me open the door? I need to put Sanbao down before I can drive. With one arm filled with things and the other with Sanbao, Jiaonan didn't have any spare hands to hold her car key. All right. That was the least Miaojing could do to relieve Jiaonan's burden. Thankfully, she only had to hold the hands of the toddling children and only needed to let go briefly to open the car door. Sanbao was really not light. She put on several pounds of weight every year. Chapter 2464, No Loss, 2. Ever since the children began to grow up, Jiaonan had already tried to minimize the time of carrying the children. Now that she was carrying Sanbao, Jiaonan felt that her arm would be sore the next day. How do you open this? After opening the car door, Miaojing looked at Jiaonan in embarrassment. Sanbao had already fallen asleep and couldn't sit up. Dabao and Erbao were also tumbling over. It was hard for the two adults to take care of all three children at once. It's all right. Just place them on the booster seat. Because of the three children, there were booster seats ready in the car. While awake, the three children naturally hated the restraints of the booster seats. But now, they were like three pigs and were fast asleep. They couldn't be bothered about comfort. All they cared about was sleep. Besides, with the booster seats, they wouldn't have to worry about Dabao and Erbao knocking each other while sleeping. Mom, you can carry Sanbao and sit in the front passenger seat. Jiaonan wiped away her sweat after securing Dabao and Erbao in the booster seats. Then, she handed Sanbao over to Miaojing. Only then had she finally settled all three children. I made a blunder today. Next time, we definitely have to bring them out only in the afternoon. It was her first time bringing the children out in the morning. Who would have expected the children to fall asleep and become like spineless worms who couldn't even stand up straight due to sleepiness? If they had come out in the afternoon instead, Xiao Nan felt that they wouldn't have faced such a problem. Miao Jing laughed. I think our 3 children are the best behaved amongst all the children here. You're so blessed. Look how obedient our triplets are. As a grandma, Miao Jing defended the 3 children. Even though Xiao Nan was the mother of the children, Miao Jing didn't allow Xiao Nan to blame them for their energy or for sleeping soundly like a log. Even though it was just a joke, Miao Jing was still upset. Her grandchildren were perfect. Even if they did really have any flaw, that was because they had inherited it from their parents, Zai Sheng and Xiao Nan. The children were innocent and couldn't be blamed for it. Xiao Nan knew that her mother-in-law was a crazy protector of the children and looked at the children through rose-tinted lenses. As such, Xiao Nan didn't try to argue with Miao Jing. Besides, she thought that her children were great too. Of course, it would be even more perfect if the children's father could be by her side taking care of those sleeping piglets. Then, she would have absolutely no complaints. Miao Jing had guessed her thoughts and said, next time, let's ask Zai Sheng to come along. They needed a man to be their coolie at times like this. What was the point of having a son? He was just a little bit useful when her grandchildren needed help. But at this moment, both Miao Jing and Xiao Nan couldn't help but miss Zai Sheng's strength. Miao Jing held San Bao safely in her arms before Xiao Nan stepped on the accelerator and headed home. Her dream had just been a dream. Back in reality, Xiao Nan had been the one who had been knocked down by a car instead of the one knocking someone else down. When the triplets had gotten less clingy to her, she had found some time to get herself a driving license. Otherwise, it would have been even more troublesome if Xiao Nan couldn't drive out in situations like this. Upon reaching home, Xiao Nan didn't try to fight with Miao Jing over carrying the things. After all, she had to carry the sleeping children into the house one by one. But as the car came to a stop, someone took the initiative to take San Bao over from Miao Jing. Xiao Nan felt as though she was about to tear up. The children's father had finally returned. Zai Sheng, you're back. You're just in time. Hurry and carry the children to their rooms. Nan's exhausted from taking care of them for a whole morning. Miao Jing's reaction was no different from Xiao Nan's. Their savior had come. Zai Sheng sized up Xiao Nan's situation. Seeing that she was still all right, he took San Bao over and brought her in first. To be honest, even sitting around with the children and playing with them for a while was not easy for Miao Jing. After handing the things over to the auntie, Miao Jing pulled Zai Yayawai into their room. Miao Jing was exhausted and needed Zai Yayawai to massage her. Otherwise, she wasn't even sure if she would be able to get up the next day to send the children to school. Seeing Miao Jing still trying to persevere through the pain, Zai Yayawai was upset and sour. Are grandchildren really that good? Putting aside how she wasn't even spending time with him, she wasn't even thinking about her own body and health. Zai Yayawai had already guessed that Miao Jing would definitely end up in this state. That was why he never tried to join in. Simply taking care of Miao Jing when she returned would use up all of his energy. They had to admit that they had indeed grown old. As such, Miao Jing would take care of the 3 young ones, while Zai Yayawai took care of Miao Jing. It was a nicely joined cycle. All right. Zai Yayawai massaged Miao Jing as she lay comfortably on the bed. Zai Yayawai was already an expert in this. Of course. Grandchildren are the best. My daughter-in-law comes next. My children who only anger me rank last. Even in this state, Miao Jing was still singing the praises of her grandchildren. Zai Yayawai was speechless. That's true. Grandchildren are your top priority now, and your daughter-in-law comes next. Meow meow, think about how you were 5 years ago. You shouldn't be in such a hurry now. After all, we've helped the old master fulfill his wishes and seen the birth of the 3 children. Based on what I see, our children won't grow up astray. Even if we won't personally witness it, I'm sure of it. 5 years ago, Miao Jing had simply wished for Zai Sheng to find someone to get married to. That way, when the elderly couple was gone, Zai Sheng would at least have someone by his side. As for what status that woman had, or whether she was fertile, Miao Jing couldn't care less. In the end, Zai Sheng had chosen to marry Qiao Nan. Apart from being slightly older and having poor educational qualifications, Qiao Nan was a good-tempered lady who was getting married for the first time. She was better than Chu Chenxi in every way. They had not lost out on anything by getting such a daughter-in-law. Besides, their daughter-in-law had been so great. In less than a year's time, she had made her a grandmother to 3. She felt as though she had lived her life to the fullest and could die without any regrets. Chapter 2465, No Loss, 3. But humans were greedy beings. Watching the children grow up day by day, Miao Jing couldn't help but wish that she would be able to watch them enter primary school, middle school, high school, and even university. If she lived longer, she might even get to see her great-grandchildren. When old Master Zai had left, Zai Sheng had already been 30. If Zai Sheng had married at a normal age, old Master Zai would definitely have been able to meet his great-grandchild before leaving. His great-grandchild would even have been of school-going age. But at that time, they didn't even have an inkling of the whereabouts of that great-grandchild's mother, let alone having one of school-going age. Old Master Zai had left to meet Grandma Zai with that regret. Miao Jing, who was in poor health, was often heartbroken. She didn't even know if she would get a chance to see her grandchildren start primary school, let alone meet her great-grandchildren. As such, Miao Jing was unwilling to waste any time while she was still alive. Even if it was just an additional second with her grandchildren, it was what she deserved. I know that in principle, but you know my temper well too. Look how obedient our grandchildren are. I can't bear to leave them. I was just a pure and innocent young lady when I married you, but I'm already an ugly hen now. Miao Jing felt that it was unfair how quickly time had passed and how she had aged. Miao Jing was aggrieved. Old Zai, how many more years do you think we have? All I want is to see the 3 children grow up. Why does it seem so difficult? Why couldn't the heavens give her just a little more time? After helping Miao Jing relax her body, Zai Yayawai took Miao Jing into his embrace like a young lady. Why are you crying? What's so weird about having illnesses and pains at our age? Instead of letting your mind run wild and being afraid that you'll die early and not be able to see the children, why don't you just relax at home with me? Do you really think you can endure this for much longer? Only by taking care of our bodies will we be able to live for another few more years. Wouldn't that be worth it? Really? Miao Jing looked at Zai Yayawai. Will I really be able to live for another few more years if I stay at home with you? Of course. Zai Yayawai replied confidently. Of course, you will. He had to say so even if he didn't believe it. Miao Miao was overthinking it. They were only in their early 70s. What if they lived into their 90s? By that time, the 3 children would probably be in university. Although it wasn't good to get into an early relationship, the 3 children might be different from their father. Zai Sheng had gotten married later in life. If the 3 children matured early and got into early relationships, they could very well see their grandchildren-in-law, if not their great-grandchildren. Wasn't that good enough? Zai Yayawai hoped that the 3 children could make up for their father's late marriage so that Miao Jing would be appeased. That would be fine with him too. But if Miao Jing were to continue playing with the 3 grandchildren like she had done today, she might never have the chance to meet her grandchildren-in-law no matter how early they started their relationships. All right. If you can guarantee it, I'll listen to you. Miao Jing had been easily coaxed by Zai Yayawai in her youth and was still easily coaxed now. Zai Yayawai smiled and asked Miao Jing to take an afternoon nap like the triplets. I can guarantee it. Otherwise, you can catch me in my next life and punch me. It wasn't enough to appease Miao Jing. Zai Yaowai even shamelessly settled his next life with his wife. Miao Jing had not realized that Zai Yaowai had dug a hole for her to jump into. Knowing that Zai Yaowai was a man of his words, she was glad to know that she would be able to see her grandchildren grow up. All right. Ayo, I'm so tired. I'd better take a nap and replenish my energy so that I can play with the triplets later. With that said, Miao Jing turned around to have her back facing Zai Yaowai and fell asleep within minutes. Seeing Miao Jing's childish side at her age, Zai Yaowai felt that he had not been too much of a failure as a husband. Although he had corrected his mistake a little late, it was better than not having corrected it at all. Mom's asleep? Zai Sheng asked upon seeing Zai Yaowai emerge from the room. He had already made a pot of tea for Zai Yaowai. Zai Yaowai glared at Zai Sheng. It's all your fault. You were the one who made your mom so worried. If you had gotten married earlier, would Miao Miao be behaving in this manner? Zai Sheng sneered. Early isn't always better. Are you sure the triplets would still be the triplets that mom loves so much if I had gotten married earlier? There was no way of timing this. Such was his fate with Nan Nan. If he had gotten married any earlier or later, it wouldn't have been Nan Nan. If Zai Sheng had married any random woman to have a kid for the sake of his parents' happiness, Qiao Nan would never have gotten the chance to marry him. Since Zai Sheng wasn't a person like that, Zai Sheng wouldn't say anything, much less do anything, to Zai Yaowai, who had just comforted Miao Jing, even though he knew what Miao Jing was worried about. Dad, aren't you quite grateful to the old master that you managed to marry Mom? Without the old master, his dad would never have married Miao Jing, who was an orphan and had grown up under the care of her uncle in the countryside, given his status. Because Zai Sheng had brought up his situation as an example, Zai Yaowai had nothing else to say. Zai Sheng was right. When old master Zai had asked his son, Zai Yaowai, to marry Miao Jing, her situation had been much worse than Qiao Nan's. Everyone thought old master Zai was crazy to repay his gratitude with his only son's happiness and future. Were they living in ancient times? Given Miao Jing's situation, the Zai family could have simply given her a sum of money and used their position and status to help Miao Jing find a better marriage partner. That way, Miao Jing's future would be settled. That would be good enough. It seemed a little excessive to get Zai Yaowai to marry Miao Jing. The problem was that old master Zai used his own actions to prove that he would never joke about such things. He indeed wanted his son to marry the daughter of his benefactor and for that girl to be his daughter-in-law. Everyone else thought that old master Zai was mad, and even Zai Yaowai had been upset. Since the founding of the country, people were free to marry whomever they wanted. Matchmaking was a thing of the past, and marrying because of one's parents was an outdated idea. Chapter 2466, Panicked, 1. But when Zai Yaowai first met Miao Jing before the wedding, he no longer had such an intense reaction and slowly calmed down. He even followed old master Zai's instructions and married Miao Jing, even having Zai Hua within a year. At the mention of this, Zai Yaowai felt that he couldn't compare with old master Zai. Old master Zai had already known that Miao Jing was the kind of woman that his son liked, was the most suitable for him, and the one who could give his son happiness. Zai Yaowai? Now, Zai Yaowai didn't even dare to mention his ex-daughter-in-law, Chu Chenexai. It was embarrassing to even mention her name. As old master Zai's son, Zai Yaowai had repeatedly tried to resist and refuse to marry Miao Jing. But apart from his initial dissatisfaction, he had never done anything too over the top. Although he had feelings for Qi Minlin, he had already settled that cleanly before meeting Miao Jing. It was true that men didn't have sex just because of love. The problem was that the Zai family's men would never touch any women they had no feelings for, including those who voluntarily threw themselves at them. Zai Sheng's treatment of Chu Chenexai was the proof of this. Similarly, if Zai Yaowai had not been satisfied with Miao Jing and didn't like her as a wife, there was no way Zihua would have arrived in less than a year. The second year, they had even gotten Zai Sheng. From how the children had been born one after another, it was clear that Zai Yayawai indeed liked Miao Jing, whom old Master Zai had chosen for him. But perhaps, old Master Zai had set too high a bar by finding Zai Yayawai such a suitable life partner. Zai Yayawai thought that he would be able to do what his father had. That was why he had chosen Chu Chenexai for Zai Sheng. Of course, what happened after showed Zai Yayawai that old Master Zai's success couldn't be replicated. Besides, he didn't have as good judgment and foresight as old Master Zai did. In short, when it came to matchmaking their sons, he wasn't as good as his father. It was as simple as that. If Zai Yayawai were to have another chance, he would still choose to listen to old Master Zai, and get married to Miao Jing. That would never change no matter what. Because Zai Sheng was too clear of Zai Yayawai's feelings for Miao Jing that he used their relationship as a comparison. Dad, if Grandpa acknowledged Mom as a goddaughter instead and didn't stop you from dating Qi Minlin, would you have married Qi Minlin in the end? Zai Yayawai and Zai Sheng didn't know that Miao Jing happened to have woken up out of thirst and had overheard the conversation between the father and son. As such, her hand remained on the doorknob without moving. Miao Jing awaited Zai Yayawai's answer nervously. She was sure that Zai Yayawai had feelings for her. But if not for her father-in-law interfering at that time, would Zai Yayawai have married her? Yes. Miao Jing was already a mother and was even a grandmother in her old age. But as a woman, she still wondered whether she was the most precious woman in her husband's heart. Otherwise, Miao Jing didn't even want to consider that situation. It wasn't something she could bear. Miao Jing couldn't help but laugh bitterly. If given a chance, perhaps, she would have given up on this relationship first and begged old Master Zai to help her out in another way. It had been love at first sight for her, and nothing made Miao Jing happier than knowing that she would be marrying Zai Yayawai. It was only after joining the Zai family and getting to know Zai Yayawai that Miao Jing started to feel inferior. Not only was she not worthy of Zai Yayawai, but he also had another woman in his heart. Most importantly, neither Zai Yayawai nor Miao Jing knew that old Master Zai had never intended to sacrifice his son's marriage to repay his benefactor. But when he wanted to repay his gratitude and take care of his benefactor's daughter by giving her another identity, old Master Zai felt that Miao Jing was a very suitable partner for his son, someone whom his son would like. Based on that feeling, old Master Zai changed his mind at that moment and decided to get Miao Jing to marry Zai Yayawai. Thankfully, the birth of Zai Sheng and Zai Hua proved to old Master Zai that his sudden inspiration had been right. Miao Jing was indeed the right daughter-in-law for the Zai family. Even until his death, old Master Zai had not mentioned this to anyone. Even the two parties concerned knew nothing about how the situation had changed just like that at that time. Miao Jing held her breath in, waiting for Zai Yayawai's answer. No, there had been a long pause before this answer, so long that Miao Jing felt as though she couldn't wait for the answer any longer. But Zai Yayawai replied to Zai Sheng firmly. The answer was no, even without old Master Zai's arrangement or old Master Zai stopping him from meeting Qi Minlin. Unless he had not met Miao Jing and didn't know anything about Miao Jing's existence, he would never get together with Qi Minlin no matter who interfered in the matter. You might not believe me, but it was love at first sight when I met your mother. No, it's not just you who won't believe me. Even I couldn't believe it either. If he had believed it, Qi Minlin wouldn't have visited so often, and Chu Chenexai would never have gotten the chance to cheat on his son. While your grandpa was alive, he always said that I was a fool. I never admitted to it until... Up until the old master passed away, his children had always had a distant relationship with the couple. In the end, when Chu Chenexai's scandal broke out, Zai Yayawai finally understood that the old master hadn't been wrong calling him a fool. Zai Yayawai was worried about Miao Jing and was even blaming Zai Sheng for getting married late, causing her to worry about not being able to see her grandchildren grow up. It was all because he felt that his mistake had caused him to lose many years with Miao Jing. By the time he decided to cherish Miao Jing and treat her well, they were already advanced in age. Just like how Miaojing was worried that she wouldn't be able to watch the three children grow up, Zai Yaowai was often worried that he wouldn't have enough time to treat Miaojing well to make up for whatever time they had missed. In essence, the couple was no different from each other. The difference was that Miaojing placed her focus on her three grandchildren, while Zai Yaowai focused on Miaojing. Chapter 2467, Panicked, 2. We're father and son. Don't ask such stupid questions in the future. Our family doesn't have a history of Alzheimer's disease. When the old master left, he might have been in poor health, but his mind was still clear. You'd better not embarrass him. When it came to relationship matters, Zai Sheng didn't think that it was necessary to respect his elders. After all, Zai Yaowai had not made a good start for his children. How could he ask for anything from them? In the end, Zai Hua lived in Pingcheng while his son's family lived with him and his wife. But Zai Sheng never listened to him and always did as he pleased. Zai Yaowai couldn't tame that wild nature of his. Thankfully, both Zai Yaowai and Miaojing were fine with it. Since they couldn't control him, they wouldn't try to do so. They were assured by the fact that there was, in fact, someone who could control Zai Sheng by his side. She would stay by Zai Sheng's side and take care of him for them. Because of that, there was nothing for them to worry about. All right. You take care of your wife, and I'll take care of mine. We won't talk about this. It was rare for the father and son to be chatting, but they separated upon the mention of their wives. I'll go back to accompany your mom. I'm going to take care of my wife. Usually, others would return home to find their moms. But with the men of the Zai family, it became finding their wives. Da Bao, Bao, San Bao. It was a holiday and they heard a female voice shouting out for the Zai family's children as though she was taking their attendance. Sister Jiajia is here to visit you guys. The moment they heard Jiajia's voice, the one with the largest reaction was naturally San Bao. There were times she would keep secrets from Da Bao, Bao, and even her mom, Chiao Nan. But she would definitely tell her sister, Jiajia, those secrets. It was only natural that Jiajia treated San Bao as a precious daughter and cherished her deeply. They shared a close relationship, and even Chiao Nan was jealous of it. Sister Jiajia. San Bao yelped out and rushed out of the room toward Jiajia. Sister Jiajia, how many days of holiday do you have this time? Jiajia had gotten quite a decent score for her college entrance examination and had managed to enter a school in the capital. As such, Jiajia immediately registered for a school in the capital for the sake of her younger siblings, angering Zai Hua in the process. It was only because of her bad karma from her previous life that she had given birth to such a daughter. If Jiajia had decided to go to the capital to study for the sake of her siblings, would she even return to Pingcheng for work? Given the Zai family's status, it wouldn't be difficult for them to help Jiajia find a job in the capital for her to settle down there. Zai Hua had no other choice. Wherever her daughter was where she would be. As such, she had no choice but to move over to the capital as well. To be honest, even without the Zai family's help, Jiajia was already a second-generation heir thanks to her mother, Zai Hua. She had no lack of money. Jiajia, who had once thought of going down the same path as her mother by entering the military to join Shi Qing, had changed her mind in the past few years. As Zai Hua's daughter, Jiajia did indeed have some desire for the army. But she wasn't as stubborn as Zai Hua, and neither was she as obsessed about being an official like her father was. It was only because Jiajia had met an impressive female soldier, Shi Qing, that she had wanted to be one. Besides, there was something Jiajia had never mentioned, but Chiao Nan had felt it. Jiajia wanted to be a soldier because she felt that Zai Hua had given up her passion and had become a full-time housewife after marrying Weida to take care of her. To a certain extent, Jiajia wanted to use her life to make up for Zai Hua's regrets by being a soldier. Zai Hua hadn't been able to go through with her plans and dreams because of her marriage to Weida. As Zai Hua's daughter, it was only right for her to help her mother fulfill these dreams. Zihua had opposed the idea at that time, but Jiajia, who had only been in her second year of school, was headstrong and insisted on going into the military. But now that 2 or 3 years had passed, Jiajia had calmed down and had even become hesitant. She wasn't too sure about becoming a female soldier anymore. Having sensed that, Xiaonan decided to have a chat with Jiajia. Afterward, Jiajia no longer insisted on going into the military and had changed her aspirations. Xiaonan had managed to convince Jiajia out of it, and Zihua had initially been grateful toward her for that. But after learning about the major that Jiajia had applied for, Zihua had almost died from anger. Since she ran a business, Jiajia would be able to inherit her company in the future if she studied something like economics. But what did Jiajia apply for? What kind of job was Jiajia planning on getting after graduating? After learning that Jiajia was trying to follow in Xiaonan's footsteps by leaving the job of earning money to others while she only spent money and did charitable work, Zihua scolded Xiaonan. It's not like you don't have a daughter. You even have 2 more sons. You have 3 children, so why are you trying to snatch my daughter away from me? Jiajia should inherit my company. She hadn't even tried to snatch Xiaonan's children, so why was Xiaonan trying to snatch hers? Xiaonan wiped Sister Zihua's saliva off her face. Sister Zihua, let's be reasonable. When did I try to snatch your daughter away? At the mention of this, Xiaonan didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. Sister Zihua was right. She was a mother to 3. Her own children already worried her enough every day. Why would she try to snatch Jiajia away? Are you still angry that Jiajia applied for a university in the capital? Don't Dad and Mom agree that universities in the capital are good? Even if she doesn't go to the best universities, she can study in top-tier universities. Sister Zihua, what are you worried about? She couldn't possibly neglect Jiajia's future just because she wanted to keep her daughter by her side. That's over. I'm not talking about that. Indeed, Jiajia had done well in her exams, and although she had not been a valedictorian, her scores had not been low at all. It would be foolish to forego top schools like Peking University and Tsinghua University with that score. She would never allow Jiajia to do such a foolish thing. Then, Xiaonan was utterly confused. The most important matter at home recently was undoubtedly Jiajia applying to universities. Chapter 2468. Panicked, 3. Jiajia had already become a student of Peking University. That was already set in stone. So, why was Sister Zihua still angry at her, claiming that she was trying to snatch her daughter away? She was being maligned. You still dare to say? Zihua couldn't help but roll her eyes. Did you forget what you brought Jiajia to do during her holidays after her college entrance examination? At the mention of this, Zihua felt even more regretful and annoyed than after finding out that Jiajia had registered for a university in the capital. If she had known that this would happen, she would have prevented it from happening in the first place. Even though Xiaonan was doing good deeds, Xiaonan's existence alone was a poison. That was why Jiajia had been poisoned and her mind was filled with her auntie, Xiaonan. She had completely forgotten about her own mother. Holidays. Xiaonan gave it some thought. I didn't bring Jiajia to do anything bad. Whether it was caring for lonely elderly residents or helping the children in the mountains, she had never stopped with her charitable actions. Xiaonan gave no thought to how much she spent on it since it was wealth she had gotten from the Zhu family. There was no need to scrimp on it. It was just as well that Jiajia could use her holidays to relax after her college entrance examination. Zihua had initially intended on bringing Jiajia for a holiday overseas so that she could relax. That had been Jiajia's intention too. Several of her classmates had asked her out on a holiday. Of course, as students, they settled for touring the country instead of going overseas. With both her classmates and mom trying to get her time, Jiajia couldn't make up her mind as to where to go. Then, it had coincidentally been time for one of Jiaonan's planned charitable activities. Jia was on her vacation, and so were the 3 children in the nursery. The 3 children were already used to following their mom into the mountains. Initially, they had been unused to it and even afraid. But as time went by, they became like monkeys in their own territories. Not only were the triplets especially receptive to their mom bringing them out to play, but they even enjoyed it very much. After all, Zai Sheng had started to send the 3 children to the military for training from time to time. Because the children had undergone scouts training with increasing intensity, the children's bodies had gotten firmer and stronger. Of course, that also meant that their personalities had gotten stronger as well. The 3 children were no strangers to climbing mountains and swimming while in the military. In the past, the 3 children still had baby fat on them, and holding them was no different from holding cotton candy. They felt chubby and fluffy. But ever since the children followed their father to the military, Jiaonan realized that her 3 children had turned from chubby kids to kids with firm muscles. Although they were still slightly rotund, they were no longer chubby and soft but a little firm. Jiaonan had been rather upset as a result and was furious the moment she saw Zai Sheng. The 3 children hadn't even turned 5. Everyone else's children were still soft and tender at that age. Which other child would have muscles as firm as her children? Jiaonan could still hold it in and not argue with Zai Sheng when it came to Dabao and Erbao. It was all right for boys to be strong. After all, they not only had to protect themselves but their younger sister as well. But Sanbao was a young lady. Was Zai Sheng planning on raising an iron woman by training Sanbao in this manner? As the only young lady, Jiaonan thought that it was necessary for Sanbao to learn some martial arts. There had been too many articles about this topic being published online recently. Even though it was unlikely that anyone would dare to bully Sanbao given their family background, it was better to be safe than sorry. What would they do if someone wanted to mess around with the Zai family, or if someone tried to mess around with Sanbao not knowing that Sanbao was the Zai family's daughter? At a time like that, it would be crucial for Sanbao to have self-defense skills. But there had to be a limit to that too. They couldn't possibly train their daughter like they did their sons. Her fair and tender children, who resembled fresh dumplings, had turned into pickled ducks after only 7 days in the military with Zai Sheng. Jiaonan was on the verge of a breakdown from seeing the drastic change in her 3 children. Not only had they gotten tan, but they had also lost much of their baby fat. Zai Sheng was such a great father. Thankfully, the triplets had been in a great mental state when they returned. They had never complained or aired any grievances to Jiaonan. Instead, they had even excitedly told Jiaonan all about what they had learned throughout the week, and they had grown. They even proudly declared that they would be able to protect their mother very soon. To better protect their mother, they would have to return to the military with their father again so that they could undergo more training. The children's happiness was the most important. And their feelings determined Jiaonan's attitude toward Zai Sheng. If the children had returned crying, Zai Sheng would definitely be sent to sleep in the study. Because Zai Sheng had started throwing the 3 children into the military, they no longer needed Jiaonan to take care of them every time they entered the mountains. Not only were they fast in climbing the mountains, but they even often handed Jiaonan sticks to aid her or gave her a helping hand. At night, even Sanbao was no longer afraid of those strange noises they heard in the mountains. At the age of 5, the children had even started to sleep in their own separate rooms. But in the mountains, the children had no choice but to sleep with Jiaonan given the limitations there. Sanbao felt that she was all grown up and dared to sleep alone. With her mom, Dabao, and Erbao around her, there was no way she would be scared by all those sounds made by animals at night. Sanbao was no longer a baby. She was a young adult. As such, it went without question that the 3 children naturally tagged alongside Jiaonan and wanted to help her out when she was preparing for this activity. After arriving in the capital, Jia put all her efforts and focus on her younger siblings. Since her college entrance examination was over, Jiajia had no pressure on her for the time being. She could do whatever she liked without making any plans. There were two groups of people who had invited her out. It didn't seem right to reject her classmates, and rejecting her mother was even worse. Jiajia gave it some thought and turned to her younger siblings, wanting them to come up with an idea for her. Jiajia had been in such a panic, or perhaps it was because she had been bewitched by her younger siblings. She couldn't even make up her own mind. How had she come up with the idea of getting her younger siblings to make a decision for her? Chapter 2469, Ascertaining the Truth, 1. Thankfully, the triplets weren't ordinary children, especially Dabeo. He looked at Sister Jiajia, who was in university, helplessly. Sister Jiajia, do you want to go to the mountains with us and our mom? There are a lot of older brothers and sisters in the mountains. Mom even said that we can do a lot of meaningful things. As he said this, Dabeo sighed. Sister Jiajia, you're already a university student. Why are you still so childish and playful, always thinking about where to go? The three of us are 5 years old, but we are unlike you. The three of them were still young. Why were they unlike Sister Jiajia, who was worried about where to have fun during the summer vacation? They were busy. After accompanying their mom to deliver things to those older brothers and sisters, they even had to follow their dad to the army to train their bodies once they reached home. Coupled with the school assignments and tasks that their mom assigned them, they were so busy. How would they have the time to think about where to have fun? Sister Jiajia was already an adult. What should she do in the future if she was still playful? After being berated by Dabeo, not only was Jiajia not angry, but she even laughed. Is that so? I've really broken Dabeo's heart. Since Dabeo invited me, shall I go and do good deeds with you? Oh, her younger brothers and sister were so motivated. She only knew where to travel. By comparison, she was really useless. All right, since there was such a rare chance, she would follow her younger brothers and sister to do some meaningful things that wouldn't be a waste of time this summer vacation. Oh, right. Sister Jiajia, Mom said before that while we are doing good deeds, it's best not to say too much. We should do more and say less. Otherwise, those older brothers and sisters would feel uncomfortable in their hearts. Dabeo added a reminder. Jiajia laughed out loud. Dabeo was really worried about how unreliable she was. No matter what, she was someone who was at their age once. Would she not understand how they would feel? There was no need for Dabeo to say that. She knew her limits. Little Dabeo, is there anything else you would like to remind me about or get me to pay attention to? Don't worry. I will definitely remember the words you said and try my best not to do anything wrong. Of course, if I really do anything wrong, please feel free to correct me anytime. Is this all right? The little Dabeo was happy to be trusted by Sister Jiajia. He puffed his chest and quietly said, Sister Jiajia, don't worry. I will definitely take care of you well and not let you make any mistakes. Under the three children's lead, Jiajia began to follow Jiaonan around. At first, Jiajia didn't feel much. It was only later when Jiajia saw many thank you letters sent to Jiaonan from the children in the mountains who received Jiaonan's help did Jiajia feel that what she had done was meaningful. Then, such a feeling escalated when Jiajia received a thank you letter directed to her. Initially, Jiajia felt that she had lost her goal after the college entrance examinations and didn't know what she wanted to do in the future. However, after reading that letter, Jiajia had a preliminary idea in her heart. Then, she moved step by step in this direction. As said before, Jiajia was not a 3-year-old child. She had her own judgment and decision-making power. When Zihua realized her daughter's plan, it was too late. She could only watch helplessly as Jiaonan abducted Jiajia away. She had worked so hard to create everything for Jiajia, but Jiajia didn't cherish it. Jiajia was more willing to stay by Jiaonan's side and learn how to do charity. Jiajia had considered it well. After she graduated from university, Qiaonan wouldn't be young anymore. She also had to be concerned about the triplets' high school entrance examinations and college entrance examinations. By then, she could become her aunt's right-hand man and help her manage everything. That way, her aunt's charity wouldn't be disturbed by anyone or anything and could go on. In short, Jia decided to become Qiaonan's successor. She wanted to uphold Qiaonan's attitude as a human being and make small contributions to society and the people. She wasn't going after status or profits. She would just do her best. It was because of this that Zihua looked at Qiaonan as if she was an enemy. Yes, an enemy. She was the enemy who snatched her daughter away. She was the enemy who snatched her successor away. Every time Zihua used this topic to accuse her, Qiaonan could neither laugh nor cry. She didn't know how she should respond to Zihua. Could she say that she didn't do anything? Dabao was the one who did a good deed by introducing this to her. She didn't mention anything to Jia or influence her with any words. Sister Zihua, I still think that your accusation of me is untrue. I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. If there's really no other way, snatch Jia back. She was not willing to be the scapegoat. It was really hard for her to say in a few words how Sister Zihua looked at her every day. Zihua snorted proudly. What's the point of saying this now? You know Jia's temper as well. She won't listen to me. She only listens to you. Furthermore, didn't you give birth to Dabao? Aren't the words that Dabao said to Jia the same words that you said to Dabao? You're still the culprit. Qiaonan was speechless. She really couldn't say anything about Zihua's accusation. She even felt that Zihua's words weren't wrong at all. Could it be that she really snatched Zihua's daughter away? Don't struggle. Dabao's your son. As his aunt, I can't settle scores with him. I would naturally settle scores with you, his biological mother. A mother should pay a son's debt. Have you heard of this before? Zihua was very happy since it was rare that Qiaonan was speechless. Didn't Qiaonan snatch her daughter away? So what if she was bullying Qiaonan? She had to save herself some face in this family. No, I haven't. You made this up, right? Qiaonan's lips twitched. She wasn't well educated, but that didn't mean that she had a low IQ. Zihua was bullying others based on her high educational qualifications. That was distasteful. Hua, are you bullying Nan again because of Jia? Zihua rolled her eyes and threw Qiaonan a look as if asking. Is this old woman my biological mother or your biological mother? Qiaonan smiled in return as if saying, even if she is your biological mother, she is my mother-in-law. There's the word mother either way. What is the difference? It's confirmed. Zihua was the one her own biological mother picked up, whereas Qiaonan was the biological daughter. Mom, why are you up? Have you rested enough? Chapter 2470, Ascertaining the Truth, 2. Zihua walked over to help Miaojing, but the latter avoided her impatiently. Although I'm already in my 70s, I can still walk on my own. The older one was, the more one behaved like children. Following Jia's enrollment into a university in the capital, the Zai family's reunion happened in the capital. Such a life was complete for Miaojing and Zai Yayawai, and both of them had no other demands. Besides, there was something that the entire Zai family didn't know about, but only Miaojing did. 2 years ago, after overhearing the conversation between Zai Yayawai and Zai Sheng, the last shackle in Miaojing's heart fell to the ground, giving Miaojing a different mood and feeling. After calming down, Miaojing was no longer as restless as before. She also no longer had an inexplicable sense of urgency in her heart. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. Although her body wasn't particularly strong, it wasn't weak either. She didn't go to the hospital and rarely took medicine. Now, Miaojing was no longer anxious. Like before, she still loved the triplets and Jiajia and wanted to see the growth of these 4 children as much as possible. She no longer insisted on things and became happy-go-lucky. She would live as long as she could and look at these 4 children as much as possible. Take it that she earned it. She wasn't making a loss but earning instead. In that case, why did she have to struggle so much and be at odds with herself? Aside from the 4 children, Miao Jing placed importance on Zai Yaowai in her heart once again. As a woman who valued her husband, the time spent by his side naturally couldn't be short. Her grandchildren were obedient, and her husband was caring and considerate. He even wanted to make up for the lost time in their youth. Miao Jing suddenly realized that her life couldn't be more blessed. As for Qi Minlin, whom she was once so jealous of, looking back today, she was also a pitiful person. Even though the Zai family didn't pay attention to the Chu family's matters, news would still travel to the Zai family through various channels. The person who knew about everything the earliest was always Zai Hua. There was no choice. Among so many people in the Zai family, only Zai Hua had mingled well. She had all kinds of friends around her, and they were well informed. As long as Zai Hua wanted to know about something, they could find out for her. A few years ago, Chu Qin was shameless. He brought the son his mistress gave birth to find a job and said that he was Zai Sheng's nephew. Back then, Zai Hua was still in Pingcheng. How would she allow Chu Qin to be so presumptuous? Among the people in this circle, only quite a few in Pingcheng didn't know why Zai Sheng would divorce Chu Jinexai. Based on this situation, only Chu Qin, who was at his wit's end, and the son his mistress gave birth to, who was extremely thick-skinned to say that Zai Sheng was his uncle, would do such a thing. Without Zai Hua making a move, how would this son of Chu Qin be able to find a good job, let alone become an official again? Thankfully, Chu Qin really liked his son. He spent quite a lot of money on him since he was young to groom him. This person was slightly capable. However, he was unlucky to have Chu Qin, a father who only knew how to do his son in. He didn't need to think about being a national civil servant or official. However, as long as it wasn't a state-owned enterprise and he wasn't picky about his career, this person would still be able to find a job and earn money so that he could survive. However, this also meant that Chu Qin's family would leave the national political sphere forever and could only lead an honest life in the future. When his dream of being an official was broken, how would Chu Qin be happy even though he had both a son and a grandson? He missed the days when he had not yet gotten a divorce with Qi Minlin and Chu Jinexai was still a daughter he was proud of. Chu Qin finally realized that no matter how good a son was, he wasn't as good as being an official. He wasn't an emperor who had to pass his throne to his son and grandson. As long as the Chu family could return to its original state and he could continue being an official, he'd rather not have a son or a grandson. Having Chu Jinexai as a daughter alone wasn't a bad thing. If he was given another chance, he would definitely not take this old path again. He would cherish Qi Minlin and work together to raise Chu Jinexai well so that she could grab hold of Zai Sheng as his son-in-law. No one could understand how Chu Qin died. Chu Qin wasn't ill, so it was impossible that he died from an illness. However, no one harmed him either. If it was said that he passed away because of old age, then there were a lot of people older than him who were living well. In this lifetime, Chu Qin had slept with Qi Minlin on the same bed but had different dreams. However, when it came to death, it was as if the couple had discussed prior that they were going to leave on the same night. Different from Chu Qin, no one was surprised that Qi Minlin died. Before Qi Minlin got a divorce from Chu Qin, she wasn't very well and was always ill. It was because of her poor health condition that she didn't hesitate and promised to divorce Chu Qin and give her position to the mistress when he showed up with her and his son. There was no other reason. She was in poor health and didn't have the energy or physical strength to kick up a fuss. Chu Jinexai was already in her 40s. She was divorced once and didn't have a child by her side. She also didn't have a new boyfriend, so it was very likely that she wouldn't have a child of her own in the future. This daughter was simply someone that Qi Minlin couldn't bear to let go of. In order to take care of Chu Chenxi, Qi Minlin wanted to live for a few more days and arrange the days of her daughter well so that even when she wasn't around, she could still lead a good life. Only then would Qi Minlin feel at ease and leave this world peacefully. They were really sisters. Shi Qing was in good health. It was just that she didn't want to get married. She was tired of people calculating against her and didn't want to place her feelings on a man at this age. Thus, she adopted a child. After knowing that Shi Qing did so, Qi Minlin thought for a while and also encouraged Chu Chenxi to adopt a child who was still drinking milk. If she raised such a child up, and as long as the child wasn't told that he or she was adopted, he or she would treat Chu Chenxi as his or her biological mother. Under Qi Minlin's support, Chu Chenxi adopted a daughter. Why a daughter and not a son? It was because Chu Qin liked sons. Because of this, he drove her, the daughter, out of the house for his mistress' son. Since this was the case, she wanted to raise a daughter more than a son. She wanted to be a completely different person from Chu Qin.